I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now. I need your full attention because a quiet catastrophe just breached the walls of the White House. This is not a drill. This is not media hype. This is the breaking point. Right now, in 2026, millions of American lives are hanging by a thread, and Donald Trump is forced to beg Canada for a lifeline. Subscribe to this channel immediately. Do not wait. Do not scroll away at all. The algorithm will hide this video soon. Click the subscribe button right now before it is gone forever. At exactly 2:47 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time, the atmosphere inside the Oval Office shifted from routine political theater to pure, unadulterated panic. Classified briefing documents were slammed onto the heavy oak desk. The air left the room. Advisors stood in absolute, paralyzed silence as the stark reality flashed across the digital screens. The administration that built its entire identity on the fierce rhetoric of America First was suddenly brought to its knees by an invisible, odorless gas. Donald Trump picked up the phone. He did not dictate harsh terms. He did not issue characteristic threats. He did what no one ever expected him to do. He made a direct, urgent call to Ottawa. He pleaded. When the mainstream media reported this as a routine bilateral discussion on North American trade, they lied directly to your face. Let me translate what that heavily sanitized diplomatic language actually meant behind closed doors. It was a controlled, frantic scramble to avert an immediate nationwide collapse of both the American healthcare and technology sectors. The math is brutal, and it is completely unforgiving. 47%. That is the precise share of all the imported helium the United States relies on that crosses a single northern border. For decades, Washington treated Canada like a junior partner, a secondary player with absolutely nothing America truly required to survive. That arrogance just shattered into 1,000 pieces. The secret phone logs confirmed that the conversation lasted exactly 18 minutes. 18 minutes of raw geopolitical leverage changing hands in real time. The trigger pulled itself thousands of miles away. The sudden outbreak of the 2026 conflict in the Middle East did not just disrupt global energy and oil markets. It dealt a fatal blow to the global helium supply chain. Qatar, an absolute titan that single-handedly produces 1/3 of the entire planet's supply, saw its massive production facilities choked off by intense fighting. The critical shipping lanes through the Strait of Hormuz were locked down entirely. In a matter of 48 hours, 1/3 of the global pool of helium simply vanished from the face of the Earth. This is where the supply crisis collides directly with American strategic survival. Western nations have already strictly banned all helium imports from the Russian Federation due to ongoing geopolitical sanctions. The global supply is not just shrinking, it is suffocating by the minute. Suddenly, the United States finds its most advanced microchip factories and its most critical hospitals completely dependent on a single lifeline running straight north. Donald Trump has almost certainly never spent a single moment of his life thinking about the physical properties of helium gas. He likely viewed it as a trivial substance, something meant exclusively for birthday party balloons and high-pitched voices. He was completely wrong. His top intelligence officials had to explain to him right then and there that without total Canadian cooperation, the lights go out. The advanced manufacturing lines stop dead. The defining technological competition of the century ends in a total bottleneck. The United States is completely exposed, and the white flag is being flown behind closed doors. The superpower is now the petitioner. The quiet neighbor to the north is now the only entity holding the keys to the kingdom. Wait, it gets worse, much worse. Now, what I am about to show you changes the whole picture entirely. This is not just a tragic story of sudden, unexpected wartime bad luck in a distant part of the world. This is the story of a catastrophic, completely self-inflicted American wound. It is an act of blind strategic sabotage that is almost impossible to believe. For nearly a century, the United States was the undisputed, unchallenged helium superpower of the entire world. It was not even a close contest. Washington possessed the perfect geology. It held massive natural gas fields rich with the element. And back in the era of military airships, the government had the profound strategic foresight to construct a literal underground empire, the National Helium Reserve. Located deep beneath the earth near Amarillo, Texas, this massive government-managed stockpile held billions of cubic feet of the substance. For decades, this reserve acted as the invisible shock absorber for the entire global economy. It kept prices stable. It kept supply steady. It was the ultimate safety net. And then, in a series of decisions that look more like unhinged madness by the day, the the United States systematically dismantled its own fortress. In the year 2013, Congress passed a specific law to wind the entire federal operation down. They chose to privatize it. They chose to auction it off to the highest bidder. From 2013 all the way through 2018, the federal government held massive fire sales, draining the very buffer that protected the nation. The brilliant logic of the politicians at the time was that the private market would magically handle it. They believed holding a strategic commodity reserve was an old-fashioned waste of taxpayer dollars. The timing could not have been more disastrous. At the exact moment the global medical industry was multiplying its reliance on magnetic resonance imaging machines across every single hospital, at the exact moment the semiconductor industry was exploding into the foundational infrastructure of the modern universe, the United States threw its own insurance policy into the garbage. They completely cleared out the vaults. They walked away from safety. You might think that once the early warning signs started flashing, Washington would wake up. You would be entirely wrong. The bureaucratic blindness continued. In the year 2022, and then again as recently as the year 2025, the United States government formally and officially declined to classify helium as a critical mineral. Think about that level of negligence. Bureaucrats sat in comfortable offices and judged that helium was simply not vulnerable enough to merit federal protection. When a major new multi-billion-dollar strategic minerals program was launched to secure the future of American industry, helium was completely left off the list. It was ignored. It was forgotten. It was abandoned. Now, in the year 2026, that profound arrogance is colliding head-on with the hardest possible reality. The public buffer is permanently gone. There is no backup tank. There is no secondary vault to open. There is no secondary vault to open. There is no emergency supply to deploy. The United States market is totally bare, exposed to the raw elements of international chaos. The country that once controlled the entire global supply has written itself out of the script. Every single medical scanner, every single semiconductor fabrication plant, and every single advanced military guidance system in America is now operating without a safety net. The margin of error is exactly zero. The historical superpower intentionally disarmed itself, and the consequences are arriving right now. Here is what nobody is talking about. While the mainstream television networks are completely obsessed with the loud explosions in the Middle East and the immediate chaos of shipping lanes, a much darker, far more calculating chess game is being played in the shadows. A new axis of power has quietly formed, and it is specifically designed to weaponize the modern world's most critical vulnerability. Intelligence briefs circulating within the highest levels of the Pentagon confirm a terrifying development. A formal, aggressive Russia-China helium axis is actively locking down the remaining global supply of this irreplaceable gas. Let that sink in for a moment. This is not a vague prediction about the distant future. This is happening right now in 2026. While Western nations were busy patting themselves on the back for enforcing strict economic sanctions against Moscow, Vladimir Putin was cutting massive long-term deals with Beijing. Reliable insider data reveals that Russian helium exports to China skyrocketed by an astounding 60% in a single 12-month period. 60%. This is a massive, coordinated transfer of strategic wealth. Why is China buying every single molecule of helium it can get its hands on? Because the Chinese Communist Party understands the rules of the new technological arms race perfectly. They know that the explosion of artificial intelligence is completely dependent on advanced computing infrastructure. They know that you cannot manufacture the supercomputing microchips required to train massive artificial intelligence systems without immense quantities of ultra-pure helium. China is deliberately and systematically cornering the market. They are building a massive state-controlled stockpile. They are preparing for a protracted technological Cold War. Meanwhile, America's top artificial intelligence laboratories and defense contractors are looking at completely empty shelves. The semiconductor giants in Taiwan and South Korea that the entire global technology economy leans on are already warning that their operations are dangerously exposed. But the hidden truth goes even deeper into the geology of North America. The mainstream media points to Canada as a simple, automated solution to Washington's massive problem. They treat the northern border like a magical spigot that can just be turned on at a moment's notice. But here is the critical detail they are intentionally keeping from you. Canada's helium industry is trapped in a brutal, invisible bottleneck. It is a choke point that could paralyze American power overnight. In the province of Saskatchewan, innovative companies are doing something revolutionary. In almost every other country on Earth, helium is merely an afterthought, a low-priority byproduct skimmed off the top of giant natural gas drilling operations. This means the entire global supply is completely hostage to the highly volatile economics of the fossil fuel market. If natural gas prices crash, helium production stops. But in Saskatchewan, operators are drilling dedicated wells specifically for helium itself, extracting it alongside harmless nitrogen. It is an incredibly clean, highly reliable, green source of the element. It is exactly what the Western world needs to sever its dependence on hostile regimes. Yet the Canadian opportunity is being actively choked to death by a total lack of domestic infrastructure and a severe shortage of investment capital. The independent companies racing to bring these critical projects online are being completely ignored by major commercial banks. Bureaucrats in Ottawa have repeatedly left helium out of massive federal support programs designed for other critical minerals. The wells are sitting there. The priceless gas is trapped deep underground in the Western Canada Sedimentary Basin. But there are not enough pipes, there are not enough purification facilities, and there is almost no heavy equipment. The savior of the entire Western Alliance is currently forced to run on a pathetic financial shoestring. This is the terrifying reality behind the closed doors of global power. The ultimate weapon of survival is completely real, but it is currently starved of the resources needed to fight. I lost sleep reading the latest leaked intelligence assessments from the Department of Health and Human Services this week. It is one thing to talk about abstract global supply chains. It is another thing entirely to look at the cold, hard mathematical breakdown of human suffering. Let us zoom in directly. Forget the corporate boardrooms in Washington and Ottawa for a brief moment. Walk inside a community hospital in Columbus, Ohio. Down in the basement, a state-of-the-art magnetic resonance imaging machine sits in a sterile room. That machine is not just a piece of expensive medical equipment, it is the only thing standing between a frightened patient and a hidden, aggressive tumor. These machines require a constant, uninterrupted bath of liquid helium to keep their superconducting magnets chilled to minus 452 degrees Fahrenheit. But helium cannot be permanently trapped. The physical reality of the universe is completely unforgiving. Because helium atoms are so absurdly small, they constantly slip through the ultra-secure seals of even the most advanced cryogenic containers. The global supply is literally boiling away every single day. A standard container loses roughly 1% of its entire volume every single month, simply evaporating into the upper atmosphere, gone forever. It is a ticking clock that never stops. When the global supply chain suffocates, the crisis does not just hurt multinational corporations. It hits you. It hits your family. The largest medical helium distributors have already formally declared force majeure. That is the sterile, legal language for a total systemic failure. They are actively sending emergency notices to regional medical networks, stating that allocations are being slashed by exactly 50%. Think about what that truly means on the ground. No scanners, no test results, no chance at survival. An elderly grandmother waiting for a critical cancer screening is suddenly told her appointment is postponed indefinitely. A young father trying to map a sudden debilitating stroke is pushed to the back of a massive, agonizing line. The advanced diagnostic machines do not simply slow down. Without liquid helium, the magnets overheat, the system fails completely, and the most sophisticated medical technology ever built instantly transforms into a 20-ton, completely useless block of frozen metal. At the exact same moment, the crisis slams directly into the heart of the modern technological economy. Every single electronic device you touch relies on high-end semiconductors. The massive fabrication plants in Arizona and Texas cannot run their manufacturing lines for a single hour without ultra-pure helium to flush out highly toxic chemical byproducts and cool delicate silicon wafers during fabrication. If the Canadian lifeline is severed, chip production ceases instantly. This is not about a minor delay in the shipment of the latest consumer smartphone. This is a total, unprecedented economic heart attack. The microchips that power your car, your computer, and your entire household budget will become luxury items overnight. It means immediate, skyrocketing technology inflation. It means the complete paralysis of the global automobile industry. It means automotive factories shutting down, workers being laid off by the thousands, and consumer credit markets locking up entirely. The defining technological boom of our generation, the massive race for artificial intelligence supremacy, is running headfirst into a brick wall. We are talking about $14 billion in economic value vaporizing into thin air, all because of an invisible, unreactive gas that Washington carelessly threw away. So where does this leave us as we march deeper into 2026? The board is set. The pieces are moving. We are staring directly into the abyss of three distinct, deeply unsettling futures. None of them are clean. None of them are painless. None of them offer a comfortable way out. In the first scenario, Ottawa decides to play absolute hardball. They realize they hold the ultimate economic nuclear weapon. Facing immense domestic pressure to protect Canadian healthcare, the government locks down the northern border. They implement strict, aggressive export quotas on raw helium, leaving American medical networks to completely starve. The United States technology sector collapses. Millions of magnetic resonance imaging machines across the nation go permanently dark. It is a total, unmitigated healthcare disaster. In the second scenario, Donald Trump is forced into a humiliating, unprecedented retreat. To secure the critical 47% of helium America desperately requires to survive, he completely tears up his aggressive tariff threats. The fierce rhetoric of America First completely evaporates into thin air. Behind closed doors, Washington signs a desperate, heavily lopsided trade agreement, giving Canada massive, historic concessions on automotive manufacturing, dairy, and steel, just to keep the liquid helium flowing across the northern border. It is a total geopolitical capitulation hidden behind sanitized diplomatic press releases. Or consider the third, most volatile scenario of all, the ultimate strategic standoff, a state of mutually assured economic destruction. Remember the bizarre truth: Canada has the priceless resource deep in the Western Sedimentary Basin, but they completely lack domestic high-capacity liquefaction facilities. They must ship the raw gas across the border to be processed in American plants just to make it usable, then import it back to save their own patients. It is a perfect, terrifying loop of interdependence. Two nations standing toe-to-toe, each holding a knife directly to the other's throat. One single border shutdown, one aggressive executive order, and both societies bleed out simultaneously. There is no easy exit ramp from this crisis. There is no political shortcut. There is no margin for error. The historical superpower that loudly claims it holds all the strategic cards is revealed to be completely, utterly dependent on the quiet neighbor it spent decades treating like a secondary player. The true global leverage has shifted entirely. Now, the ultimate question belongs to you. Which scenario do you see playing out as this crisis deepens? Will the White House swallow its immense pride and capitulate to Ottawa? Or will Washington allow American hospitals to go completely dark out of pure, stubborn arrogance? Tell me your exact thoughts in the comments section below. Do not sit on the fence. I read every single response. If you want to stay ahead of the narrative before the mainstream networks completely scrub the truth, you know what to do. Share this video immediately with someone who still falsely believes helium is just a party toy. Look closely at the invisible plumbing of the modern world. The clock is ticking. The containers are leaking. The choice must be made. Stay vigilant. Stay informed. I will see you exactly when the next crisis drops.